Addressing the epidemic of domestic abuse, the impact of a systemic public health crisis. The system that is presently in place, which is intended to protect victims of child abuse and domestic violence, is currently causing detrimental consequences in family offense cases because the corruption in Ulster County is imposing severe legal harm and legal abuse to victims of family violence. The gender-biased practices of family court, in collusion with the Department of Social Services, law enforcement, and the attorney for the child, infringes upon the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, children's rights, constitutional rights, and victims' rights, which causes disabling consequences. Rights granted under the Americans with Disabilities Act are also violated. Justice is not being served as long as mothers and children are afraid to speak up about the abuse because they are repeatedly denied their inalienable human rights in both the lower courts and the higher courts. According to the Declaration of Human Rights, the family is the natural and fundamental group unit of society. But in New York State, in cases of family offenses, child abuse, domestic violence, and sexual assault, victims are systematically denied their fundamental human rights for equal protection under the law, denied the right to a tribunal, and are denied the right to advocacy, support, resources, and safety. New York state law requires that victims are given written notice of their rights to pursue their case in either criminal court or family court or both. However, victims are repeatedly redirected by authorities to solve the matter in family court and are discouraged to pursue their cases in criminal court. Victims are denied equal rights to advocacy and resources to help protect themselves from further harm. Abused women and children are not being properly represented and supported by the public services that are available and are repeatedly hindered from ending the cycle of abuse. In the purpose of serving the self-interests of the family court and the child welfare system, family offense victims/petitioners are redirected to solve abuse cases in family court. But the problem is that family offense cases in family court are orchestrated behind closed doors, in collusion with the judge, attorney for the child, and court affiliates. The evidence of the abuser's unfitness and abuse are dismissed, which is denying victims the right to due process of law, under the color of law, as family offense cases are pre-decided in family court before the trial commences. The corrupt patterns of practice of the family court are designed to achieve the judge's desired results, which empowers the abuser and silences, criminalizes, and penalizes the victims for having reported family offenses to the authorities. Due to the corrupted family court proceedings, the victims of family violence are being denied the right to end the cycle of abuse within their legal rights. An orchestrated series of detrimental orders are being decided behind closed doors in collusion with court affiliates and the family court judge and court-appointed attorneys, where the evidence of the abuse is omitted, suppressed, and dismissed from the record in order to discredit the eyewitness reports of the victims. The litigants are excluded from witnessing the court proceedings and are denied access to the records of family court proceedings while the records of the case are manipulated in family court to minimize the severity of abuse on the family court records, which denies the family abuse victims their rights to due process of law. The Ulster County Family Court systematically fosters a detrimental bond between the abuser and the abused child or children. As the protective mother continues to report family offenses to the authorities, the family court systematically retaliates against the mother, and through the corrupt patterns of practice of family court, the mother is alienated and criminalized as she continues to strive to protect her children from further family violence and legal abuse. In collusion with the attorney for the child, AFC, counsel, and court-affiliated advocates, the judges award sole physical and legal custody to the violent father, denying equal rights without due process of law, under the color of law. The Ulster County Family Court judges penalize and retaliate against the traumatized mother by reducing her parenting rights to minimal time or completely denying her any contact with her children, and the victim is ordered in child support court to pay her abuser child support far beyond her means. The family court pattern of legal abuse in Ulster County needs reform, which is presently incriminating the victims and empowering the abusers. By creating a tribunal, we can end this cycle of legal abuse. The intergenerational cycle of legal abuse in Ulster County is so severe because it hinders victims from becoming survivors of abuse, and it is in turn creating family court customers for lifetimes. The suppression of the family offenses and the child abuse records is orchestrated in collusion with the judges, CPS, police, DAs, public defenders, AFCs, psychological evaluators, supervised visitation providers, court-affiliated therapists, medical and mental health providers, schools, crime victims advocates, family of Woodstock, etc., who unanimously deny victims the right to support and advocacy, which limits victims' access to the full extent of the public benefits and services, which discriminates against the mothers who report family offenses to the authorities and denies them equal rights. The family court judicial process is intentionally prolonged. In cases concerning family offense petitions, custody modification petitions, emergency petitions, habeas corpus petitions, which denies victims the rights for immediate protection to end abuse. Claims are not fully adjudicated on the merits of the case, which violates victims' rights to due process of law. Through the pattern and practice of these corrupt family court procedures, the protective parent is systematically criminalized, penalized, and illegally silenced, while the abuser is awarded sole custody, imposed without consequence against the law for his abusive acts of violence upon the family. Awarding the abuser full legal and physical custody empowers the abuser to maintain coercive control over his victims. The judge does not provide a written or verbal reason for why the mother is denied custody without a finding of her unfitness. The judge does not provide a written or verbal reason for why the abusive father is awarded custody, even when evidence of the father's abuse is filed to prove the abuser's unfitness to the judges, AFCs, court-appointed attorneys, CPS, court-appointed affiliates, advocates. This is in violation of the subject matter jurisdiction, laws, and Constitution of the State of New York and United States, and the human rights of the disfavored class of victims of family violence. The mother is repeatedly denied a legal remedy and repeatedly traumatized through the pattern of legal abuse. The judge provides no resolution or ADA accommodations for victims of family violence. The AFC's recommendations are biased in the judge's favor and do not reflect the severity of the danger posed to the child in his or her best interest. Due to the self-interests of the AFC's corrupt patterns of practice, the child is involuntarily detained into the custody of the abuser and alienated through court orders from the protective parent / primary attachment figure / primary caretaker. The legal system in New York State has been faulty for too long because children who are abused are being misrepresented by corrupt legal counsel. The AFC violates the child's human rights due to their lack of due diligence, as they improperly investigate and misrepresent the best interests of the child. Child trafficking by the family court directly benefits the family court's self-interests and denies victims the right to protection under the law and Constitution. The victims of family court violations continue to be denied restoration in the higher courts. There is no oversight in the higher courts when family courts' victims' rights are violated. Courts in federal jurisdiction cannot reverse the order due to the domestic relations exception. Federal courts do not hold the judge accountable due to the doctrine of judicial immunity, nor do they hold the court-appointed attorneys or AFCs, who are not state actors, accountable due to the doctrine of quasi-judicial immunity. There is no oversight or accountability for violating victims' rights to due process of law. The family court judges evidently collude with the appellate court to serve the self-interests of the family court judge and the court-affiliated personnel. State appellate courts have jurisdiction to reverse the orders. However, due to the family court's manipulation of the evidence and the record, the appellate court is unable to recognize and/or hold state/non-state actors accountable for violations of the law and corrupt procedures. Ulster County Family Court continues to fail to uphold the human rights and civil liberties of the family court customers who report family offenses. The Ulster County Family Court is fathers' rights biased and repeatedly discriminates against the victims. Victims are being denied the right to due process of law. The family court, in collusion with court-appointed affiliates, systematically terminates the rights of the victims and criminalize and penalize the victims under the color of law, which is in violation of federal and state laws and is in violation of the judges' oaths of office to the Constitution of the United States of America. Family offense cases are not revisited like they do with criminals. Criminals have more rights than the victims. In Ulster County, the family court judge has ordered that a convicted murderer is able to spend more time with his child than protective mothers are allowed to have with their children. Victims are repeatedly traumatized by the legal system, which is causing a general distrust in the judicial system. The very system in place that is intended to protect victims from harm is silencing victims who take action to end family abuse. In Ulster County, there are no effective or immediate forms of protection, advocacy, or resources available to help support and protect the victims so that they can recover and heal from the trauma of abuse and the legal injustice. Without the right to a tribunal, victims are forced to take matters into their own hands because government-funded advocates are not standing up or speaking out against the corrupt patterns of practices of the Ulster County Family Court, the Department of Social Services, and the law enforcement, who seize children from protective mothers without due process of law. Due to only having family court to protect victims, and the corrupt legal practices and rights violations, which are violations of the law, children in Ulster County are alienated from their mother and are ordered into involuntary detention, into the custody of the abuser, or foster care, or kinship care, or grandparent care. Primary attachment figures who are fit will continue to report child abuse, domestic violence, and sexual assault to the authorities, even when their human rights have been repeatedly violated by the justice system that is in place. Protective mothers will continue to protect the rights of their children to stop the abuse and neglect. The damage to women and children who are being oppressed due to the corrupt patterns and practices of Ulster County is immeasurable, lifelong, and irreparable. Ulster County needs to investigate the corrupt patterns of practice in family court, which conspires with other agencies to cause damages to mothers and children. We need to reform the system that is intended to protect and support mothers and children who are victims of family violence, and create an available tribunal or unbiased advocate to assess cases of family offenses. Victims need to have an unbiased jury of peers, as opposed to a biased judge with tactics that impose ultimatum sentences on the victims and empowers the abuser to maintain coercive control over his victims. The mother is repeatedly denied a legal remedy and is continually traumatized through the pattern of legal abuse in Ulster County. The judge provides no resolution or ADA accommodations for victims of family violence.